heart of a quiet North American village lived a man named Jonah. Jonah was known as the hardest working man anyone had ever seen. He was always busy, always moving, always working. But work without a clear path is like a ship without a rudder. It moves, but it goes nowhere. It is a hollow hustle that leaves the soul empty. His schedule was full to the brim. Every hour was accounted for. Every minute was spent in labor, day in and day out. Yet, as the years passed, nothing in his life changed. His savings stayed empty. His progress stalled like a winter stream. The harder he worked, the more the frustration grew. He was a man drowning in his own effort, unable to see the shore. He saw others move forward with less effort. He saw peace in their eyes, a peace he could not find, no matter how hard he tried. He fell asleep planning more work, believing that tomorrow's hustle would finally be the answer he was looking for. But the answers weren't in the hours worked. They were hidden in the direction he lacked, a direction that was about to be revealed. As the shadows grew long, Jonah began his familiar walk home, unaware that his life was about to take a different turn. That evening, as the first stars began to pierce the twilight, Jonah walked the familiar path home. His body was heavy with a tiredness that sleep could not touch. By the roadside, sitting under the shadow of an ancient oak, he saw an old man. The man was carving a piece of cedar, his movements slow and full of grace. The stranger did not look up immediately. He spoke as if to the wood itself. "You work like someone running late," he said. Jonah stopped. He let out a long, ragged sigh that seemed to carry the weight of his entire life. "I work because I have to," he replied. "Hard work is the only way forward." The old man nodded slowly. He didn't argue. He only asked one simple question, a question that cut through the noise of Jonah's busy mind. "Where are you going?" Jonah opened his mouth, and then he stopped. He looked at the path ahead, then at the path behind, and for the first time in years, he was silent. I am trying to succeed," he finally managed to say. The word felt small in the vastness of the quiet woods. The old man's voice was like the rustling of dry leaves. "That is not a direction," he whispered. "That is a wish. And wishes, without a path, are only weights on the soul." The stranger stood up, his tall frame casting a long shadow across the road. The instruction he was about to give would change everything. The man stood and pointed down the road. The moon was beginning to rise, casting a pale light over the world. "Tomorrow," he said, his voice echoing in the stillness, "don't work harder, work smarter." Jonah frowned. The words felt like a riddle, a foreign language he couldn't speak. He had only ever known the grind, the sweat, and the struggle. For 1 week, the man continued, "I want you to do 3 things. 3 simple tasks that will reveal the truth of your labor. First, write down everything you do each day. Every task, no matter how small. Capture the hours as they pass. Second, circle the tasks that actually create value. The work that moves you forward, not just keeps you busy. And third, stop doing the rest. Let go of the busy work that leads to nowhere." Jonah hesitated. His heart hammered against his ribs. "That sounds risky," he whispered. "To stop is to fail, isn't it?" The old man's smile was thin and sharp. "Wasted effort is the biggest risk there is," he said. "It is the thief of time and the murderer of dreams." The next morning, Jonah did not head straight for his tools. He carried a small notebook and a weight of expectation that he had never felt before. The next morning, Jonah followed the instruction. He didn't pick up his saw or his hammer. Instead, he picked up his pencil. He began to chronicle the minutes of his life. By midday, he was shocked. The list before him was a map of a territory he didn't recognize. He saw hours spent fixing mistakes from the day before and favors for neighbors that had no end. Most of his time was spent repeating low-pay work out of habit and solving problems caused by his own poor planning. He wasn't lazy. No, he was scattered. It felt uncomfortable to stop. The habit of being busy was like a heavy cloak he had worn for decades. But one by one, he began to set the unimportant tasks aside. By the end of the week, a pattern began to emerge from the chaos. A single path that had always been there, but hidden beneath the noise of his hustle. The tasks that brought results, the ones he had circled in red, all involved one thing he was unusually good at: repairing and improving the tools of others. People always came to him when something couldn't be fixed by anyone else. It was his unique gift, a gift he had buried under a mountain of busy work. The old man returned as the week came to a close. He didn't need to ask how it went. He could see the change in the workshop and in the man. "Now choose one path," the man whispered, his voice full of a quiet power. "And put all your effort, every ounce of your strength, there." Jonah made a decision that would ripple through the rest of his days. Instead of trying to do everything, he chose to do one thing exceptionally well. He became the village specialist. He invested his time in mastering his craft. He learned better methods, and he offered a service that people could rely on. He charged fairly, but he charged with confidence. Word spread like a warm breeze through the valley. People trusted him. They knew that if Jonah fixed it, it stayed fixed. Demand for his skill grew every single day. Months passed into seasons. Jonah no longer worked longer hours. He worked better ones. His income increased, but more importantly, his stress began to melt away. He saved consistently. He reinvested wisely in better tools and a better life. He had stopped chasing every opportunity and had finally focused on the right one. Over time, Jonah became wealthy, not overnight, but steadily. Not because he worked harder than everyone else, but because every ounce of his effort now moved him forward. The old man visited once more. He looked at Jonah, and a proud smile touched his lips. "You were never poor because you lacked effort," he whispered. "You were poor because your effort had no direction." Jonah smiled. The truth of those words resonated in his very soul. He finally understood that a life of meaning is not found in the hustle, but in the path. Effort without direction will exhaust you. Effort with clarity will build wealth. May your path be clear. If you found value in Jonah's journey, please subscribe, like, and share this story. Let's find direction together. Thank you for watching.